Good morning, Room 108. Today is Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. It is the 124th day of school. Pretty cool. I hope you all had a great Monday yesterday. Maybe if you wanted to, you were able to go out in the snow a little bit, even though it was kind of wet, so maybe not the best snow to play in, but it still looked pretty. I stayed on my couch all day and caught up on some shows and some movies and just relaxed a little bit, gave myself a little bit of a break since it felt like winter again. Didn't feel like spring yesterday. Our national day today is National Chocolate Covered Raisins Day. Now, I don't really like chocolate covered raisins. And what I also found out is that there's more than one national day. So, I'm going to give you a choice. You can decide if you want to celebrate National Chocolate Covered Raisin Day or you can celebrate National Cheese Steak Day. Now, I know I'm going to choose National Cheesesteak Day because I love cheese. I know you know that I love donuts, but I love cheese just a little bit more. So, you can choose whatever you want to celebrate. You can tell me in your daily journal which one you're going to celebrate and why. That'd be pretty cool. So, I'm going to get to reading today because we are so close to the end of this book. We are on chapter 19, and it is called Apologies. Now, remember, if you did not get to watch the video yesterday and heard chapter 18, you can go back to my YouTube channel and you can find the video. Ask Mom and Dad to help you to find the video from yesterday if you want to hear chapter 18. Chapter 17 is there too. But today we're going to read chapter 19. Apologies. There were 227 green tile squares on the hallway floor between the cafeteria and the school office. Dave counted each one to keep from thinking about what was going to happen next. But he thought about it anyway. Mrs. Chaplin pointed at the principal's door. Go right in. Dave knocked. He knew he didn't have to, but it bought him another 2 seconds of delay. Mrs. Hyatt said, Come in. And Dave thought, at least she's not using her bullhorn. He opened the door, and she was standing with her back to him, looking out the windows into the school courtyard. Dave blurted out, I'm sorry. And he said that because he knew he shouldn't have yelled at the principal, even if he had been right, which he still believed he was. He also apologized because he hoped it might help save his life. This is the picture of him right before going in. Mrs. Hyatt turned around, and Dave was shocked to see the look on her face. Because she wasn't mad. She almost looked like she'd been crying, and her nose was pink. She shook her head. That's why I sent for you, so I could say that. I'm the one who got angry. And I yelled first. And I set a terrible example. So I hope you'll forgive me. Dave couldn't remember the last time a grown-up had apologized to him. And to have the principal saying she was sorry, well, he could barely manage a nod at her. She nodded back, and then paused and said, So, what are we going to do about this situation? Not sure, Dave said. She frowned. Please, you can talk freely in here. None of your friends can hear us. Dave shook his head. Honor system. Mrs. Hyatt's eyebrows went up. Oh? Of course. Very admirable. Well, maybe you can answer some questions for me, just to get started. Dave said, Sure. First of all, how did all of this get going? Who started it? Dave smiled. Gandhi. Pardon me? Mrs. Hyatt said. Dave said he stopped talking. The principal said, And someone wanted to try that here at school, right? Dave nodded, and he pointed at himself. All my fault. I see, she said. How did you learn about Gandhi? He said, Social Studies report. And why did he stop talking? Dave shrugged. To think more? But you're not keeping silent. Not totally. Why? Dave thought a moment and then said, respect for school, which he knew was going to make him sound like a goody-goody. But it was true. He and his friends weren't trying to shut down the school. Not at all. Mrs. Hyatt nodded slowly and said, okay. She seemed to be out of questions. And during that 3 or 4 seconds of silence, an idea jumped into Dave's mind, but he pushed it out. It was too outrageous. But the idea bounced back into his head. And this time, Dave just blurted out, "Want to join?" Mrs. Hyatt bunched her eyebrows together. "What do you mean?" "Join. Stop talking." She looked at Dave as if he had just told her to put on a grass skirt and dance the hula on the roof of a school bus. "Don't be silly. I'm the principal. Do you have any idea how many people I have to speak to every single day?" Dave pointed at a notepad on her desk. "May I?" She nodded, and he wrote, "You can say only 3 words in a row, and only if a teacher or a grown-up talks to you first. Except you can talk to a kid first, because you're sort of a teacher, and no talking at all outside of school. Honor system. And the whole thing's almost over anyway, just until tomorrow." Then Dave smiled up at her and said, "It's interesting." Mrs. Hyatt shook her head. "Oh, I could never." Dave put up his hand like a traffic officer. "There. Stop. 3. Mrs. Hyatt smiled, and it wasn't a principal smile. Dave could tell. She was smiling a real person smile. She smiled because she realized Dave had offered her something important. Just 5 minutes earlier, she had acted like a monster. But she wasn't, not really. Still, she had behaved terribly. Everyone in the cafeteria knew that. Kids and grown-ups both. And news like that spreads quickly. So somehow she needed to remind everyone that she wasn't a monster. Fast. And Dave had just offered her a way to become human again. Because it's a well-known fact that monsters do not have a sense of humor. She tore Dave's sheet off the notepad, bent over the desk, and did some writing of her own. She stepped quickly into the office and handed Mrs. Chaplin the paper. The secretary read it over quickly and said, "And I should..." The principal held up one finger and said, "Type." Then she held up 2 fingers and said, "Duplicate." And then she held up 3 fingers and said, "Distribute." Mrs. Chaplin said, "Got it." Then turning to Dave, the principal said, "Ready, set, go." Dave's head was spinning, but he managed to say, "Where?" She was already out the office door, and over her shoulder, Mrs. Hyatt said, "To the cafeteria." And that's where the chapter ends. Tomorrow's chapter is called The Winners. Now, tomorrow's chapter, that starts on page 139, and we have to read all the way to 146. Whoa. So let me tell you that one more time. We're going to start on page 139, and we're going to end on page 146. If you can do that subtraction, do it on your daily journal, and you can tell me what the answer is. How many more pages do we have left? I'm excited to finish it. All right, I will let you go. I'll get you started on your work. Go down the slides a little bit more, and you can listen to some other read-alouds or videos from Franklin. And every day there'll be more to come. All right, I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.